Hey, good Thursday morning to you on your June 9th. This is your tropical update for the morning of June 9th. I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone. The great news is things are still quiet out in the tropics, but I wanted to talk about something we're watching as we head into hurricane season over the next couple of months, and that is El Nino or La Nina. You hear us talk about it a lot, and I'm going to explain why we focus on it so much as we head into hurricane season, and also let you know the latest outlook from the professionals. They've been running the data, and we just got the latest outlook in today on what our chances are of La Nina or El Nino. Now take a look at the graphic you see there on your screen. Notice the chance of El Nino almost zero. It's down to 3%. In April it was at about 7%. Now it's down to 3%. And this is for the months of August to October. And the reason we look at August to September to October is that is the peak of hurricane season. And that's usually when we care about this the most in the tropics. Notice the chance of La Nina up to 54%. And the chance of a neutral state is 43%. So the chance of us seeing an El Nino this hurricane season is almost non-existent. And we're currently in a La Nina phase. Now, the reason we care about whether it's La Nina or El Nino is because usually they have an effect on what is going on in the tropics, whether you're in the Eastern Pacific or in the Atlantic Basin. Of course, here on the in the Gulf of Mexico, we care about what's going on in the Atlantic. So whenever you're in La Nina, which is what we're expected to be in this hurricane season, you typically get a better environment for storms, meaning you have lower wind shear. And that's one of the key parts to get a storm to develop. You got to have low wind shear. And whenever we have La Nina, an upper level high develops in the Caribbean. And that usually means wind shear is going to be light. And that allows storms to really thrive. So that's the way it looks. Now, on the flip side, if you're looking at the Eastern Pacific here, usually when you're in La Nina, you have less storms because there is an upper level low, and that equals wind shear, and that happens out in the Pacific. So they're inversely related. When the Eastern Pacific is quiet, the Atlantic is usually active, and when the Atlantic is less active, the Eastern Pacific is usually more active. And it looks like that'll be the case as we go into this hurricane season. And we've actually had La Nina. This would be the third year in a row, and that is extremely rare. Sometimes you get 2 years in a row, but 3 years in a row, that is not very common. Because of this forecast and this outlook, we are once again forecasting an above average season. This was the latest from Colorado State University, some of the best in the business for hurricane outlooks. They're now bumped up their numbers. Notice this is their April forecast. 19 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. That in of itself is an impressive forecast, but they've now bumped up their numbers by 1 on each of those. 20 named storms is what they're calling for, 10 hurricanes and 5 major hurricanes. Reason for that, we're expected to be in La Nina phase, and also the Atlantic's running a little bit warmer than normal, and the easterly African monsoon is expected to be a bit more active, and those are the tropical waves that are seeds for these systems to develop. So all that coupled together gives you an active season, and that's what we've seen the past couple. So that's what we're looking at the rest of this season. Great news is the tropics are quiet. The Atlantic, whether you're in the Atlantic or the Caribbean or even going into the Gulf, things are going to remain quiet the rest of this week and through the weekend. Notice there's really not even any thunderstorms or things going on. There's a couple dry tropical waves out here, but they're not expected to do anything. The Eastern Pacific, though, it is getting a little bit more active, and as I mentioned earlier, it's usually inversely related. The Eastern Pacific's active, the Atlantic's quiet, and vice versa. So the Eastern Pacific will be the place to watch over the next couple of days. Some showers and storms out here could become that the next tropical system out there in the Eastern Pacific. We're quiet. We're actually dusty. We've got a lot of Saharan dust out there traveling across the Atlantic. It's a big fetch. I mean, it extends all the way back to the continent of Africa, into the desert, across the Atlantic, into the Caribbean, and now approaching the southern Gulf. You could see there on our model run. And this will continue to move into the Gulf through the weekend, and by early next week there will be a little bit of a haze in the sky. That coupled with high pressure sitting over the south here and an upper level ridge, it's going to look like a classic summertime hot hazy day out there. So just be on the lookout for that as we go into next week. If the Atlantic starts to wake up, it would probably be in the next 10 to 14 days. You can see here highlighting this on our kind of extended outlook. This will be the spot to watch the next 7 days of next week. The Southern Gulf, Northwest Caribbean will probably be our next place to watch in the next 10 to 14 days. Beyond that, there's no reason to get into specifics, but that will probably be what we're watching towards the end. At least the third week of June is what it looks like. Our next name on the list is Bonnie. Remember, we had Alex earlier this week. That storm is long gone, but next name is Bonnie, Colin, and then Danielle. But once again, for now, things are remaining quiet in the Atlantic Basin. That does it for your June 9th, Thursday morning tropical update. I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone. Thank you so much for joining me.